पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततत्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः. So we'll begin the fifth chapter today. So let us chant maybe first four verses of the fifth chapter. Let's just chant that. So we'll begin with the first one. Arjuna uvacha Sannyasam karmanam Krishna Sannyasam karmanam Krishna Punaryogam cha shamsasi Bhugam yogam sa shamsasi Yatshreya etayorekam Yatshreya etayorekam Tanme bruhi sunishchitam Tanme bruhi sunishchitam Shri Bhagavan uvacha Sannyasa karma yogascha Sannyasa karma yogascha Nishreyasa karavubhau Nishreyasa karavubhau Tayostu karma sannyasat Tayostu karma sannyas Karma yogo vishishyate Gyeya sa nitya sannyasi Gyeya sa nitya sannyasi Yo na dveshti na kankshati Yo na dveshti na kankshati Nirdvando hi mahabaho Nirdvando hi mahabaho Sukham bandhat pramuchyate Sukham bandhat pramuchyate Sankhya yogau prithak balaha Sankhya yogau prithak balaha Pravadantina panditaha Pravadantina panditaha Ekam apyasthita samyak Ekam apyasthita samyak Ubhayor vindate phalam Ubhayor vindate phalam. Okay. All right. So in the second, third, and the fourth chapters, which we have gone through, Krishna has primarily discussed two topics. One is regarding sadhana, which is called spiritual discipline. Spiritual discipline. So sadhana means really the means to an end. So for any accomplishment in life, you need the right way of reaching the goal. Supposing you want to make tons of money, then you have to figure out how to earn it, how to save it, and how to invest it. So there is money sadhana, you can say. This is sadhana. If you want to really, this is what people say, that I want to be a millionaire before I'm 30. Okay, well then figure out how to do that, because I don't know how to do it, so you have to figure that out. This is called money sadhana. But here, if the objective is to get into a situation where I am free of all problems in life. Really, this is what we all want to do. Whether we are going in directly into it or not, we all want to be free of problems. So this is what is called a spiritual progress. Spiritual means that I'm not interested in minor goals. I want the total goal. And so this is called spiritual discipline. This is called sadhana. So one topic of the Bhagavad Gita in the second, third, and fourth chapter we have studied is sadhana. And the second topic is something which is a little bit more applicable to growing up and living in India than it is on the West, but still there to a certain extent, is the lifestyle of achieving the sadhana. And the lifestyle has some common, doesn't matter whether you are in India or no, but it has some common elements to it. And so those are the common elements that we need to examine. So these are the two topics, sadhana and lifestyle. And so now, in what's called the yoga mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, which is, yoga means a sadhana. Yoga means a sadhana, means a means of accomplishing something is called yoga. To unite, yuj is the dhatu, and to unite means to achieve. There are various things talked about, such as karma yoga, jnana yoga, bhakti yoga, etc. So now we say that the understanding of the Bhagavad Gita, which needs to be understood, is that karma yoga is a means to arrive at jnana yoga. So right away, one thing we should understand is the explanation of the Bhagavad Gita is that karma yoga and jnana yoga and bhakti yoga are not independent paths to moksha. It's not like saying, you do karma yoga, I do jnana yoga, and we'll see you there at the same time. You go this path, we go this path, and so on and so forth. No. So this is what is called sadhya and sadhana. And sadhya means what is to be achieved, and sadhana means the means of achieving it. These are the two basic ways of looking at it. So the correct way, as we will explain this as we go further, but just giving you the summary of it, the correct way to look at it is that karma yoga is the sadhana for jnana yoga, which is a sadhya. And jnana yoga then becomes the sadhana for the ultimate freedom, which is the sadhya. And the ultimate freedom is not a sadhana, because that is what you want to achieve anyway. There's no journey after that. So the correct way that Krishna is trying to to convey to Arjuna is that Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga are connected, they are not parallel. It's kind of like, you have to catch the freeway. And then once you catch the freeway, you can forget about the city streets, then you're on your way on the freeway. But the city street and the freeway are not alternate ways of going to the same one. Anyway, that was the explanation. So this means, for example, that it is not a choice between means and end. It's not a means and end. It is a choice between the right way of seeing which is the means and which is the end. Okay? So now, I'm just looking at some of the beautiful commentary that Swami Paramarthananda had done on this. So once you choose the end, then the appropriateness of the means becomes useful. But if you don't even know what ends you're going into, then the means are not very useful. So, for example, you can go to a bus terminal and say, I've decided to take a bus. And the person says, where do you want to go? This I'm not sure of, but I do want to get a bus. So the person says, we have lots of buses. So tell me where you want to go. Then you can choose the right bus. He says, well, that I'll see later on, but right now I just want to get into a bus. Meaningless. And so the sadhana, which is the nature of the spiritual discipline, is only good if you know the end very clearly. This is where I want to go. So now, you cannot choose between, it's the same thing, I'm just repeating myself. So, the Karma Yoga has to be ended, it culminates in a clear understanding of the knowledge about myself. And this is the issue. We were just discussing this in the previous class also, that really speaking, the subtlety of myself as an independent person, which is free of problems, cannot be done until my mind also becomes clear enough as to what that means. How is freedom achieved? The freedom of the something which is already there and not understood. All of those kinds of things have to be done. And this is what is called the Antakarana Shuddhi. So Antakarana Shuddhi means that, Swami Dayananda used to say that, he says, for me to understand absolute love and absolute freedom, I must be familiar with relative love and relative freedom. You cannot say that, I'm okay as whatever I'm doing at this point, which has some likes and dislikes and some hatred thrown in and all of that, but I want to achieve total love. Hey, what is it? I think I've mentioned this before, that people say, I love humanity. It's the people that I hate. Individual people I cannot stand, but humanity I just love. This is beautiful. Humanity consists of people. Until you learn how to love and tolerate people, you cannot appreciate humanity. So similarly to that is that point. And also, so in the case of Jnana Yoga, it depends upon, so here's another thing. The sadhana and sadhya is with respect to a viewpoint. Jnana Yoga is the sadhya with respect to karma yoga, and it is the sadhana for achieving moksha. So Swami Paramatmananda had given this example that if you look at Rama, Lord Rama is the father of his children, Lava and Kusha. And he's the son of the king Dashratha. So it all depends on which direction you're looking at. You either have to, so the Jnana Yoga, which again it means the purity of the thinking, inculcating love and affection for others, and also I think another thing which is a very important thing, probably more than anything else, is developing a love for yourself. One of the biggest problems we have, and this is what happens, you are so used to having feelings for others that are not very kind, unkind ways of viewing others, that the same attitude is used for viewing yourself. You become intolerant. You become impatient to yourself. So our acharyas all say this. I remember from Swami Chinmayananda onwards. Swamiji said, you know what was very useful to me when Swami Chinmayananda is talking. He says that what was very useful to me was not only was I teaching others, but I was also teaching my own mind. And I can tell you from the same thing, really, I don't know if you're getting anything out of these classes, but I am getting something out of these classes. Because the more you ascertain how you think and what attitudes you need to have, the better off you will be able to deal with others and with yourself. And so, in that sense, the Jnana Yoga is an intermediate stop. It's not the final stop. It's an intermediate stop after you have done some of the karma yogas. And so we will come to that in a minute as to what the implications are. But let's go on with this. So this is the one topic that Krishna had taken up, which is with respect to sadhana. So in summary, one should be very clear that karma as a means of gaining moksha is not possible. Not possible. All that karma needs to do, karma yoga means all the life of activity and so on, all it can do is to deliver me to the doorstep of Jnana Yoga. And Jnana Yoga has to carry me further all the way up to moksha. So this is one topic, and we should be very clear about this. Then the second part of the teaching had to do with lifestyle. With lifestyle. And here there are fundamentally two types of lifestyles. So this is where I say this is more clearly seen in India than here, but even in here also you can see it. So one lifestyle is that of actively participating in raising a family, becoming a member of the society, becoming what is called grihastha. Grihastha means that you have a home which becomes a place where you raise a family, you teach, etc., etc. So this is one lifestyle. And also this lifestyle has a lot of responsibilities, which I'll talk about in a minute. In other words, you also have, so you have certain commitments, and you have responsibilities, and all of that. So this is one thing. The second lifestyle is that of a sannyasi, of a renunciate. And even in the Western world, you can see there are monasteries. In our house where we live across the valley from there is a, what's it called? It's a nunnery. So the nuns live there across the valley. I forget the name of it. And this is a very beautiful thing to see, which is they ring a bell at certain times of the day. And it's very pleasant to hear the bells. 7 o'clock, I think they have breakfast, and then 12 o'clock they have lunch, or I don't know what they do. So anyway, but you can visualize the life in a monastery or a nunnery. And what it consists of is, they don't earn a living. They don't go out and work and get wages. They are taken care of by the church. They have abdicated their life to Christ, and they live a life of celibacy and non-grabbing of things and so on and so forth. So this is a lifestyle. This lifestyle in India is very prevalent. And in fact, the whole society supports it. You find these sannyasis. If you go near Rishikesh, there are more sannyasis than grihasthas. You see more people with these ochre clothes and so on and so forth. And it's fine. They all live there. They don't really have to think, they don't have to earn living or anything. So these are the two lifestyles. And both are very attractive and both are very useful. But both need to be carefully grown into in your life. You cannot casually say this is better or that one is better, because it all depends on your own makeup, on your own personality. And another thing that Krishna says in this whole thing, this is why, by the way, I was looking at the commentary by Swami Paramatmananda. He says, you know, the Bhagavad-Gita is a beautiful text aimed at the grihasthas. He also talks about sannyasis and so on, but it is really primarily aimed at the householders, the active people. It has nothing to do with, by the way, karma yoga and jnana yoga. That's a separate thing, or that's a different dimension. Here the dimension is lifestyle. And the Gita addresses itself specifically to a karma yogi as a householder. On the other hand, if you look at our Upanishads, even though the Gita actually summarizes the Upanishads, but the Upanishads are specially very useful for sannyasis. It's the same objective. As we will see, the objective remains the same, but the lifestyles are slightly different. And so we will go into that in a minute. So in the case of, let's take the a life of a grihastha. The life of a grihastha means the one who is a householder, means one who is an active person. Here, you have the necessity to earn money. Hopefully with means that are spiritually and legally pure. You don't grab somebody else's money, but you earn it in the right way. So this is one thing. You need money. You cannot live as a grihastha without earning money. You also have certain rights. You have rights to being secure. Security is very important as part of that. You also have the responsibilities to the society. You need to be part of the vote. You need to be a citizen. You need to vote. And you have responsibilities towards your family. If you were to have children and so on, if they need you, then you have to support them. So all of that is the grihastha. In the case of a sannyasi, none of these apply. You don't need money because you are taken care of. You don't really need to have responsibilities for a family, even if supposing you do have a family, but you have broken away from it. You are an independent person, and you don't worry about if your children or your spouse, your previous spouse and so on, is sick or they need money. That's not your responsibility. You are now living in a monastery, and your job is to understand and to be loyal to whatever you are doing, and no other relationships are kept for you. So those are the two different lifestyles. And also, what your rights are also different. So in the case of a grihastha, that you are, somebody cares for you. If you are sick, to make sure that your children support you, your spouse supports you, and so on and so forth. That all is your right. You should expect that. Not in the case of a sannyasi. In the case of a sannyasi, hopefully you will not get very sick. But if you were to get sick, then there's probably not the same degree of support available to you. You just have to live through the life as you have chosen, independent of other relationships. So your rights are also very different in that sense. Another thing is food. Food is very important. So for example, in the case of a grihastha, you have a certain amount of right to have good food. Adequate food, for one thing. Forget about good, just adequate food to live. And hopefully some tasty food, some variety. All of that is your right, absolutely. Not in the case of a sannyasi. Not in the case of a sannyasi, because you are given hopefully adequate food, sometimes maybe not enough, and certainly the variety and the tastiness is not necessary. I told you this about this story that comes to my mind, so I think I may have told you this, that sometimes, this is a real life story. So they had this, a lot of sadhus in, I think they were in New Delhi. This was in New Delhi. So all these sadhus were doing some kind of, they were taking out a procession against the protection of cows. and that the cows are getting slaughtered and that's not right. This is our mother, and so on and so forth. So they were all disturbing the peace and taking out processions and so on. So the police people said, cannot block traffic. This is, people have to go. You cannot do this. So they said, no, we want to bring name to this. And so they said, listen, I'm very sorry, but if you keep doing it, we're going to put you in jail. So they said, I don't care what you do, but this is, so they raised slogans and all of this. So finally the police commissioner said, okay, put them on jail. So they took a few dozen of them and they housed them in the jail. And they said that for jail for 1 month, all these sannyasis will be put into the jail. So now 1 month passed by, and so the jailer said to these people, okay, it's time to go outside. They were saying, can't we stay here for a longer time? This is so beautiful. So the jailer said, what do you mean? They said, this is heaven. We never used to get, we used to beg for food. Here, the food is given to us. Breakfast is served for us. Lunch is served for us. They said, well, what about freedom? Don't you feel constraints? There's only one bathroom for 5 people and this, that, or the other. They said, no, this is wonderful. We just sing the Lord's name the whole day. We don't have to do anything. Then lunchtime comes, then we eat. Then we take a nap in the afternoon. They said, this is beautiful. Can we please just stay here for a longer time? They said, no, out. And so the sannyasis don't have any rights. But here is the problem. If you have the right people, then sannyasa if you have the right maturity, then sannyasa is appropriate for you and it's very beautiful. If you are not the right thinking person, sannyasa is a huge problem. Another aspect of this lifestyle is that sannyasa is a one-way road. In fact, you cannot go back. You cannot go back and say, I tried sannyasa for 5 years and now I'm going to give up my outside clothes and I'm going to become a householder. It's a one-way thing. And also, another thing is that if your thinking is not proper, then sannyasa can be a nightmare. Why? How do we say that? Because as a householder, if there are problems that occur with people, you have the right to fight back, to question, to answer them and say, why did you do this? That was not my problem, that is your problem. Which is okay. This is how it is done. You talk it out, and not for a sannyasi. You cannot even talk back to people. You can argue up to a point, but to bring emotions in your life and so on is not appropriate. You have to think objectively. And even I find that even in our ashrams, life is a difficult one because they have to suffer silently. If they do not get their right jobs, if someone else is doing this, then so on, and they are not really are able to do what they want to do, they have to suffer. They have to do this. You cannot do that. Outside, you can say, I don't like this. And then you get over with it, and so on and so forth. So, in summary, Krishna says, because what Arjuna wants to do, just look at this. What Arjuna wants to do is to say, I like the life of a sannyasi. I don't want to go through with this battle and war. And I just want to go somewhere and meditate. Because that's what you've been telling us, that everybody needs to think about. They close your eyes and just meditate, not think about other things. That's what I want to do. So Krishna has to tell him that, listen, lifestyle depends upon the type of person you are and the type of maturity that you have either achieved or not yet achieved. And in my view, so this is where, when Krishna says, please fight, he's telling him, in my view, you are not yet qualified to be a sannyasi. There was an interesting case where someone, and in fact I used the same technique that I learned from Swami Dayanandji, but he was once telling me that there was a student that approached him, a real life case here. And I've had a couple of cases like this as well, where somebody would approach him and said, Swamiji, I want to now go to India, and I don't want to work here, and possibly I will not even work in India. I just want to be a sannyasi. In this particular case, he was not married. So, what do you think? Should I do it or not? So Swamiji said, I remember he was telling us this, he said, no. Why? Because Swamiji didn't tell him that, but he was telling us that if somebody has a doubt of what they want to do, that is not a sufficient condition to become a sannyasi. Instead, if somebody came to me and said, Swamiji, I have decided to become a sannyasi, will you give me the diksha or should I go to somebody else? Then Swamiji will say, okay, I'll give you the diksha. Are you sure? He says, I'm positive. This is what I want to do. Exactly what I want to do. And some of the students have actually approached me in the last 10, 12 years. Quite a few, in fact, people who would also say the same thing. There was one case that comes to my mind. I won't give you the name, but the person said, I really, this study of Vedanta has just, and he was married and had a child. And so he said, I want to just completely go back to India and study this. So I said, what about your wife and child? They said, they're okay with it. They'll also come with me, and then I will just, because this is what I want to do. What do you think? So I used the same technique as Swami Dayanandji, and I said, no. If you ask me, Mike, you do what you want to, but not under my permission. So he says, why not? So I convinced him to stay in this country and continue on with the lifestyle. And within this lifestyle itself, this will come in a couple of verses. This whole thing is interconnected. Within this lifestyle itself, you can gain the progress in your mind to become a sannyasi. But at this point in time, I would not recommend it. There's a very famous story about, remember, I think I may have told you this, that there was, this is also a real life story. There was a student of Ramana Maharshi. And so he approached Ramana Maharshi and said, sir, I need to talk to you. So he said, okay, come and what do you want to talk about? He said, well, I want to take sannyasa, And he had a family with kids and lots of things and so on. So do I have your permission? And Ramana Maharshi said no. And he said, well, come back to me. Right now I won't even tell you why or anything, but I will not give you permission. I won't give you you can go anywhere else, but I will not give you Diksha. Then another year passed by, and he approached him again and said, I want to take sannyasa. Could you please give it to me? So Ramana Maharshi reportedly have told him, this time my answer remains the same, but I will give you why I said no. Previously I did not even give you the reason, but this time I'll give you the reason. So okay, he says, okay, at least give me the reason. I'm not happy about your saying no, but he said, what's the reason? He says, the reason you gave, as I can see best from your description, is the wrong reason, where you want to escape the responsibility of running a family. They are a botheration to you. Isn't it? He said, yes, it's true. I don't like all the things that are going on in my family, and I just want to escape from it. He says, this is the wrong reason. A right reason would be that I think things are running okay. I've done everything. It's not as though I'm perfect, but I've done the best I can. And now I want to enlarge my family to a different style, different people, and where I am really studying this full time with the help of others. That would be the right reason if you ever came to me. So aspire to that. Take care of the family, responsibilities, and do not try to escape the problems, but to embrace new opportunities. That would be the right reason to do so. So Krishna's advice to Arjuna was very similar. Very similar. He said, you are trying to abdicate responsibility of fighting the war, which you've been preparing all your life for. And now you are certainly confused about dharma, adharma, this, that, or the other, and you want to become a sannyasi. It's not going to work. So Arjuna says, why not? Why wouldn't it work? He says, because you may be happy for a few days, but after that your entire thinking is that of leading an army, preparing for it, having the skills for it. Your whole thinking is based on that. And this is just some kind of a romantic thing that you're doing, that I want to escape it. But it's not going to stick. After a while, you'll start saying, oh, I think I made a mistake. And by that time, it's too late, because you've now become a Swami, and you cannot really go back to the old style. So this is the second topic that Krishna takes up. So two topics. One is sadhana, and the other one is the lifestyle. The 5th chapter opens up with this confusion of Arjuna. This is the chapter where we now go into this confusion of Arjuna and the resolution of that. What confusion? He says, confusion regarding lifestyle. Whether sannyasa is better or grihastha ashrama, the lifestyle of a household is better. Which one is better? So now the first verse says, Arjuna uvacha. Now look at the verse itself. With that background, let's look into the the verses. So the first one is Arjuna Uvacha. Sannyasam karmanam Krishna punaryogam cha shamsasi yat shreyah etayoho ekam tanme bruhi sunishchitam. So Arjuna Uvacha, hey Krishna, shamsasi, you are praising karmanam sannyasa. You're saying that freedom from all karma means sannyasa, just leaving everything and just going into your own self-meditation. And also karma yoga sometimes, which means to a life of activity. That's what karma yoga means. So you're praising both of them. So I am not sure what that means to me. How can you be praising both of them? Because to me, they are one or the other. So kindly ascertain for me. Sunishchitam bruhi me tad ekam etayoho yat shreyah. What is really good for me? This is an individual teaching, not a class teaching. You're teaching me individual. For me, tell me which one of the two is better. So the English translation is, Arjuna asked, O Krishna, you are praising karma sannyasa and again karma yoga. Definitely please tell me the one amongst these two which is good for me. So this is his confusion. So the genesis of Krishna's answer to this is based on this. Okay? And that is, everyone has to go through the spiritual sadhana, spiritual discipline. So there is no choice as far as whether I should do sadhana or not. There is no such thing. You cannot bypass sadhana. Everyone has to do a sadhana. Whereas there is a possibility of choosing the lifestyle. That one is okay, is okay. You can do one lifestyle or the other. But whichever lifestyle you choose must help in doing sadhana. This is the genesis of his answer. So here Swami Paramarthananda said this in the teaching of the Bhagavad Gita. You know, the teaching of the Bhagavad Gita is very similar to our own life. Because when something is told, it is supposed to be clear. So if Arjuna was told that, listen, you are making a mistake in the second chapter, in the second chapter it was told that you're making a mistake and this is what you should be doing and so on and so forth. This is the karma yoga, and it was all done. You would think that that's the Gita can now conclude. Not so. Because Arjuna says, you know, this is not clear to me. What about this? Why did you talk about karma yoga? You're doing both. So there is some doubts and confusion. This is what our life is all about. That one time Vedanta looks pretty clear. viewed from another standpoint, he says, well, I'm not sure whether I can really understand this or not because it's contrary to my experiences. And so there is an inquiry which needs continuous support again and again. Swami Paramatmananda ji, Paramarthananda, he said, you know, learning Vedanta is a lifetime process. You have to really look at it from various standpoints and reconcile it with your own experiences. Only when all those doubts are fully taken care of, then Vedanta will become very clear to you. Until now, it's not going to happen. So this kind of an inquiry in the 5th chapter is indicative of the fact that despite the fact that this was already told about, he still has some doubts. Appropriate, that's good. There's nothing wrong with that. So this is the inquiry that he has. Now, and the answer begins in the second verse. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. So he says, Sanyasaha karma yogascha nishreyasa karau ubhau tayostu karma sanyasat karma yoga vishishyate. So he says, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, ubhau, both sanyasaha and karma yogaha nishreyasa karau. They are both the sadhanas for liberation. Out of these two, tu tayoho karma yogaha vishishyate karma sanyasat. Out of them, the life of a householder is better. How is it better? This is what is being talked about. And so now the lifestyle has to be personalized. Sadhana cannot be personalized. Sadhana is the same, but the lifestyle of achieving the sadhana can be personalized. This is the basis of his answer. So there's in fact a very next verse has a word called dvandva. And Swami Paramarthananda comments on it, very beautiful commentary. He said, you know, this word called dvandva indicates that nothing in this world is absolutely good or bad. It has elements of both of them. This is what the word dvandva means. Dvandva can also mean, for example, heat and cold, two opposites, good and bad, two extremes are called dvandva. But the real essence of the word dvandva means that it is neither one nor the other, it has elements of both. And I forget there was an incident in the Mahabharata where Krishna tells Arjuna, and I think it might have been, I'm not sure, I think it was one of the Kauravas. So he said, okay, Arjuna, your job is to find a person who is all bad, I think. And Duryodhana was told, you find a person who is all good and please report back to me. And both of them came back and said, we cannot find a person like that. Arjuna looked at lots of people, examined it and so on. And any person that he was asked to look at as all bad had some good qualities in them. And the same thing happened with Duryodhana. So this just means that really speaking, we are all a mixture. This is what happens when we criticize someone, we isolate their bad qualities and really don't look at all aspects of it. And Swami Dayananda used to say that. He says, you know, it's very interesting. You find that if you have a physical ailment, you tend to accentuate the problems of the physical ailment. You do not realize that 99% of your other body is functioning very well. But you are just so upset about some pain in the... This is what happens to me. For some reason, I've developed a pain on my thumb. And I do a lot of exercises. In fact, right after this class, I'm going to go to the gym. So I always do it. It's all self-imposed. Most of my physical problems are self-imposed. So, but you wake up with a pain, and I still have some pain here. So my mind goes back to it continuously. But I don't appreciate, my heart is functioning fine. I'm able to talk. My eyes are well. And so we are a mixture of good and bad, but we just accentuate one thing at the expense of the others. So this is the word dvandva. Okay. So now he starts to say, for you, Arjuna, grihastha is better. It's exactly the same thing where somebody says, Swamiji, I want to go to India and take sannyasa. What do you think I should do? The question itself means the person has not thought through everything. And therefore, you need to spend more time thinking about it. If a person is absolutely positive, even though he's not, he still needs some support, but he's very positive, then I can support that person. But if you have so many doubts, that means you're not sure. So for Arjuna, so his answer to his question is based on who he's talking to. So he says, Sannyasaha karma yogascha nishreyasa karau ubhau tayostu karma sannyasat karma yogaha vishishyate. Your lifestyle as an engaged person is better. You're not ready for sannyasa. Okay? So for example, he says that in sannyasa ashrama, there are no resources to do a karma. There's no money. You can only do limited activities like japa, puja, etc., etc. You cannot have a full range of things that you want to do. No, you cannot do that. So for you, I consider sannyasa ashrama not being suitable for you. You just continue life and so on. So now, the next thing is, Arjuna says, all right, I get it. Grihastha ashrama is the right one for me. But I have a question. Clever person. He says, can I lead the life of a grihastha and still get the advantages of the sannyasa? Can I do both? Because can I do an active life and yet the kind of thinking that a sannyasi has, can I do that there as well? Krishna says, good question. Yes. This is the third verse. Okay, so let's look at that. He says, Gyeyaha saha nitya sannyasi yo na dveshti na kankshati nirdvando hi mahabaho sukham bandhat pramuchyate. So let's look at the word meanings and then we will see the overall meaning. So he says, He Mahabaho, Ho Arjuna. So Arjuna had long hands. And in fact, they said that there are people, if you stand like this and you just put your hands down, if it reaches your knees, then you have extraordinarily long hands. And in the case of an archer, long hands, long arms rather, not hands, but arms, was a very useful thing to see. So this is what is called Mahabaho. This happens in our American football also. So what you find is that these very successful quarterbacks, their hands are unusually large. And so they're able to, I don't know if you ever tried to play with a football. I can't. It's such a huge thing. I cannot put my hands across it. But I'm really amazed at how well they are able to throw this. And they have huge hands. It's discussed actually. They discuss the size of the hands of the quarterbacks. Anyway, that's the word Mahabaho. O Arjuna. So he answers him by saying, yes, as a householder, you can in fact get the advantages of a sannyasi, but here's how you need to do that. Yaha, so Mahabaho, yaha na kankshati na dveshti, whose likes and dislikes are not predominant in their lives, then Gyeyaha, may you know that this kind of a committed sannyasi thinking enables you to go beyond dvandva. And from this bondage, you can actually escape from it while you are active in life. This, he says, that is the right thinking. Now you are thinking the right way. Because really what you want, it's not as though you want to be a sannyasi. What you want is the advantages of being a sannyasi, which is that you want to be freedom from problems. That's the right approach. But I can tell you that even in the lifestyle of a grihastha, you can try to achieve this thinking. Might take you a little longer time. Might take you a little longer time. Yes, I grant you that in the case of sannyasi, he has more time to study than you do. I grant you that. Less responsibilities, yes, and so on and so forth. But through the right approach of thinking, even a lifestyle of action can be very freeing. And let me show you why and how. And then he picks up all the things that we had talked about before. So we will look into that. But anyway, so now he says, the way to do that is if you master your raga dvesha. Mastering the raga dvesha means they become they follow you, you don't follow them. Don't lead a life of the proposals from your mind that say, I think this is a bad person, this is a very good person, this is a bad situation, this is a very good situation, and you just continue to follow this way of thinking. Instead of that, be aware of the fact that your mind proposes goodness and badness based on its own background, but you decide what you want to do. That is the control, that is the mastery over raga dvesha. And if you do that, I can assure you that your home will become an ashrama. You don't have to go to Sailorsburg Ashram and live there. Wherever you are, it will become your ashrama. Yes, Arjuna, you are absolutely right. If your doubt is, can I get the advantages of sannyasa while I'm grihastha? Yes, this is very possible. Because a sannyasi has a harder time dealing with likes and dislikes, because there is no outlet for him. So it becomes kind of like forced inside. And it takes a while for them to really get rid of it. Whereas in your case, you get it done with. If somebody says something bad, you say, no, I argue with you. This is not done. You then don't have any lingering problems from it. I remember I learned a great deal from my own children. I remember this so well. When my children were born, sometimes we will have a fight. You know, you shouldn't have done this. And he says, no, this, that. And the child gets crying and this, that, or the other. And what I found was that the very next moment, the kid is happy and laughing and has completely forgiven me, where I still have some ideas that this fellow he has got to learn this, and I'm going to change him, and this, that, or the other. So the lingering effect of a adult is much different. A child is just does it and then forgets about it. And so this is what there's often comparison given, that a jnani needs to be like a child in some cases and should be like a mad person in other cases. So the child is very clear. The main thing is that they don't hold things against you. Something happened, and it just go on with it. You don't have any grudge that you carry with you. So a jnani should be like a child. And a jnani should all be like a mad person who has no reason for doing things. You don't have a calculation. I've got to do this, then I will. You don't have any agenda. A jnani has no agenda. A good example of that, I tell you, that was interesting. I thought about it quite a bit. When Swami Dayanandji first came to this country, I remember those days so well. We were so impressed by him. This was in 1975, 76, that we said, Swamiji, you are not going home. You're not going to India. You're going to stay with us. He says, no, I can't. I have to go back to India because people are really expecting me and I have a lot of responsibilities. I can't stay here. So we said, no, Swamiji, no, you've got to come here. And ultimately, you know what? He said, okay, whatever you guys decide. If he had an agenda which said that I'm going to teach this, I'm going to do that, and so on, he would never come here. Never come here. But our devotion was so intense that he decided, okay, I'm going to have a 2.5-year course right here. And people were mad at him in India. But he said, you know what? That's okay, I'll come back later on. And then he had a lot of other courses there as well. So they said that a jnani should be, has no agenda, and also should be like a child. And so if you have your likes and dislikes under control and you lead a life, then an active life is even better than that of a sannyasi. Anyway, so these are the dialogues that are now going to be taking place. And so the 5th chapter is a new chapter, but the issues are the similar, and just some clarifications of that. And so in summary, what he says is that Karma Yoga is a means to Jnana Yoga, and Jnana Yoga is a means to moksha. And so therefore, you have no choice on the sadhana, but you have a choice of your lifestyle depending upon your own personality. This is what is being talked about in the 5th chapter. So we'll continue with that. Leave some time for questions. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Yeah.
But he clearly says to the question that Karma Yoga Vishishyate. Considering everything, Karma Yoga is better.
So yeah, so there the Karma Yoga is the life of karma. Karma as a yoga. Karma as a yoga is better than sannyasa. He doesn't say Karma Yoga is better than Jnana Yoga. See? Renouncement. Renouncement so there the Karma Yoga is used as a lifestyle, not as though it's a sadhana. You see, there's a distinction between them. So as a
Jnana has to be there.
Jnana, what do you mean? I'm sorry, say that again.
No, Karma Yoga has to be also with Jnana, and sannyas is also with Jnana.
Right.
That is both in the same.
It is true. So that is true. But here means that also with jnana means that your eventual goal of freedom in terms of a moksha, which requires the understanding of the nature of the self, non-self, all of that, is jnana yoga. You know, that's called, no, it's called jnanam, sorry. It's called jnanam, okay? But the jnana yoga, as distinguished from karma yoga, means an understanding of jnanam. How to remove, as we were discussing in the earlier class also, how to remove the doubts from it. And so that is a higher level where all aspects of living are included in your analysis. How the very fundamental distinction between the self and the non-self, which means anything which is changing is not me. Those kinds of analysis. So this is what is called jnana yoga. Whereas karma yoga is a first step towards Jnana Yoga, because in the Karma Yoga, you are still dealing with relatively minor problems, not with the distinction between the self and the non-self and so on. You're dealing with people, dealing with your emotions, having control of raga dvesha, and so etc. So you cannot really do Jnana Yoga, which is a subtle, clear idea about the distinction between the self and the non-self, until you've done Karma Yoga. So that's how the two are there. Yes, both of them are tinged with jnanam. You're right. In that sense, jnanam is there for both of them. So jnanam there means that the end result of what you seek should be clear, and no matter what you are doing. Okay?
So he says also, Kanashita karm phalam karyam karm karoti. The sannyasi is not just who renounces the Agni, but the one that who does anashita karma, that means karma without any phal.
Right.
So there is no difference between.
No, there's a difference in the sense that we also did this in the 4th chapter. You remember when we were studying the 18th verse was the jnanam, karmani akarmanayaf pashyet, and so on. Then following that were verses 19 through 24, which says how do you position yourself to understand this jnanam. So there the sannyasi was 1 verse, and the grihastha was 4 verses. I'll like to point it out. So the grihasi, in the sannyasi, there was 22, I believe. Just a second, I'll give it to you. Yeah, number 21, sorry. So verse number 21 was, this is meant for the sannyasi. Nirashihi yata chittatma tyakta sarva parigraha shariram kevalam karma kurvan apnoti kilbisham. So there it is sarva karma sannyasa. So all karmas have to be given up. So I'm just pointing out the distinction between a karma yogi and a jnana yogi. A sannyasi and a grihastha. I'm pointing that out, okay? So in the case of a sannyasi, all karmas are given up with the exception of what maintains your body, hunger and thirst. Those are the only ones that they are allowed to do, because that is the prarabdha karma. Ishvara has given it to you, and you have to fulfill that function. If you decide that I'm not going to eat and I'm just going to die tomorrow or some few days afterwards, that's your job, but why do you want to do that? Because nobody's any wiser with that. You just fulfill the rest of your prarabdha karma. So sarva karma sannyasa is what is indicative of a sannyasi. In the case of a grihastha, that's not the case, because you should be doing some karma, but devoid of likes and dislikes, of looking for some answers at the end of that. That you give up. You do the best you can, and don't worry about the results of it, but do it, because your prarabdha is for acting out in those cases. So you see the distinction.
Yes.
In the case of sannyasi, no karma is allowed. Not allowed means they're recommended. And in the case of a grihastha, karmas are allowed, but without raga and dvesha. So there is a distinction between those two. Yeah. Yes, sir.
So essentially your actions will reveal you?
I think that a better way to do that, let me understand what you mean by your actions will explain what you mean by will reveal you.
Being a grihastha, I will have some temptations, and overcoming that and leading an ethical life, and your actions and your thought process will reveal who you are.
So that is generally true. But let me offer another way of looking at it, which in my view is more fundamental. Okay? Because revelation to others is not important. The revelation to yourself is important, right? So if that is accepted, then I would offer another model. Okay? And that model is not what you do that reveals you, but where do you gain your sense of happiness? If your sense of happiness, your sense of joy, your sense of fullness, of satisfaction in life, and so on, is dependent on lots of things, which they are. So the degree to which they are dependent on others, and to what type of things, is they are trivial or are they fundamental? That reveals more to you than what you do. Okay? So your sense, you have to evaluate yourself. That what is the source of my satisfaction? Am I totally dependent upon my family and my health and all those kinds of things? Then I have to question it. Whereas if the direction I'm going, where I'm becoming more independent, I'm less concerned whether my son calls me every day or not. I'm okay the way they are. I'm okay the way I am. Then my sense of dependence is less dependent on other things. And so that is a better value. In other words, instead of saying what I do, how do I gain my satisfaction? That is the fundamental thing that I have to see. You had a question?
But when you said I'm independent of what my children are doing, are you bordering towards sannyasa then?
No, eventually you're right. So, this is what the thing is, that you don't need to formally take up sannyasa. You don't need to do that. Of course, the 4 ashramas of life tend you towards in that direction. So the first one is brahmacharya, the second one is grihastha, the third one is vanaprastha, and the fourth one is sannyasa. As you know, these are the 4 ashramas of life. Okay? So yes, we should be moving towards sannyasa. But out of these, I personally think that the most interesting one to examine and to understand and to think about is the third one, which is vanaprastha. The vanaprastha is a very important stage of my life. And very briefly, we're already out of time, very briefly what vanaprastha means, that my sense of expectations and possessions and demands is kept at a very low level. I am okay with whatever is happening with my life. And not forced, not like what cannot be cured must be endured, not that way. but as a revelation to that I am okay the way I am, I don't need all these external demands. That has to be inculcated, that has to be looked into. This is vanaprastha. And, you know, I've often felt this is a good way to evaluate ourselves. Supposing you are married and you continue, your wife is also living, you're also living, and both spouses. Up to grihastha, your demands are as a spouse. In vanaprastha, your demands are like friends. Not physical friends, you are still intimate and all of that. But the way you look at the spouse is the way you look at friends. And in the friends, for example, you know, I'm just giving an example. You don't call somebody and he says, hey, you haven't called me for the last week. How come? There's something wrong with you. You look at them and said, well, we haven't talked to each other for a while. How have you been? You don't demand, you request. So the vanaprastha is an important stage in our life towards sannyasa. And in sannyasa, you have not only, you are fully independent, you lead your life for study and so on and so forth. You have no responsibilities, no expectations as well. Yeah.
Can I have two more
Sure.
clarification? Society benefits from grahastha.
Yes.
So what benefits society attains from sannyasi?
From their wisdom. That there are possibilities where this can be done. And this is the way our life should be. Otherwise, if there is no sannyasi, you won't have a role model. It gains a lot from that. Absolutely. And I think the fact of the matter is, really speaking, we'll talk about it in more detail. Ishvara is taking care of the world. I am not taking care of the world. I do the best I can to, and so on and so forth, but let me not worry about, not my responsibilities, it's Ishvara's responsibility. So the world is going to go on. And if I play a positive role in it, that's good, but it is not necessary for me to do so. I'm okay the way I am. Yeah. All right, we will see you next week. Thank you.